Title: Helen Keller, From Darkness to Light. Do you know the story of Helen Keller? Tuscumbia, Alabama, 1880 seconds. A quiet country home. In a small Alabama town, on June 27, 1880, a baby girl was born. Her name Helen Keller. She was healthy, full of life, and her parents Arthur and Kate Keller were overjoyed. But just before she turned 2, tragedy. Mother Kate: "Doctor, please. She's burning up. Doctor, it's a severe fever." Mrs. Keller: "Let's pray she recovers." Narrator: Helen survived, but when the fever broke, she could no longer see or hear. The world around her became silent and dark. Helen toddles around, confused, crying silently. Imagine being trapped in a world without sound, without sight, unable to say what you need. That was Helen's world. A wild child. The Keller family home. Some years later, by age 6, Helen's frustration turned into rage. She couldn't communicate, not even with her family. Mother Kate: "Arthur, we must do something. She's smart, I can feel it. She just can't reach us." Father Arthur: "We've tried everything." Kate: "What else can we do?" Then came a letter that changed everything. Perkins Institute for the Blind in Boston sent a teacher, a woman named Anne Sullivan. The arrival of the miracle worker. Setting: train station, spring of 1887. Train whistle blows. Anne Sullivan, just 20 years old, arrived at the Keller home, nearly blind herself, but full of determination. Anne: "Mrs. Keller, I believe every child can learn, even Helen, but she must have discipline and love. Mother, please." Miss Sullivan: "Help her." Anne moved into a small cottage with Helen to begin her lessons. The task ahead seemed impossible. The first lessons. Setting: the small cottage. Anne began by teaching Helen through touch, spelling words into her hand. Anne takes Helen's hand gently. Anne: water. She lets water run over Helen's hand. Water. Helen feels confused, then curious. At first, Helen didn't understand. To her, the signs were just strange movements. But then, something happened. Pause, sound of running water. Emotional music begins. Helen excited, signing slowly. Water. And tears in her eyes. Yes, yes, Helen, that's water. In that moment, the darkness began to lift. Helen understood that everything had a name. The door to the world had opened. A new world of words. Setting: Keller home. Later that year. Narrator: once Helen understood the concept of words, she couldn't stop learning. She learned to read Braille, tiny raised dots she could feel with her fingers. She learned to write. She even learned to speak by feeling vibrations on people's lips. Helen touches Anne's lips gently as Anne says, "I love you." Helen softly, struggling, "I love you." Anne smiling, "I love you too, Helen." Watch out for conclusion of this story. Tell us what you learned about this story. The student becomes a scholar. Wow, amazing. Helen's hunger for knowledge grew. She attended Radcliffe College, becoming the first deaf-blind person in history to earn a bachelor's degree. Helen sits in class, reading Braille, taking notes, smiling. Helen: the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. With Anne always by her side, Helen wrote books, gave speeches, and inspired millions. The world listens. A crowded auditorium. Helen, now grown, stands before an audience. Helen speaking slowly but clearly. "I was once blind and deaf to the world, but through love, patience, and faith I learned that no darkness can defeat the human spirit." Helen Keller traveled the world, fighting for the rights of people with disabilities, women, and the poor. She met presidents, world leaders, and millions of admirers. Her story became a light for those living in shadows. Farewell and legacy. Anne Sullivan passed away in 1936. Helen was heartbroken, but continued their mission. Helen lived until 1968, leaving behind books, speeches, and a timeless message. Helen, keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see the shadow. Tribute. Helen Keller proved that the greatest strength comes not from what we see or hear, but from what we believe. A child trapped in silence became a voice for millions, and her teacher, Anne Sullivan, became the miracle worker who opened her eyes to the world.